Shanghai, once a vibrant symbol of China's prosperity and progress, has reached a deeply ironic moment in 2025. Subway workers are facing layoffs, and a wave of salary reductions is sweeping through. The subway, long regarded as a hallmark of Chinese urban achievement and a point of civic pride, drove countless cities to take on massive debt to expand their networks, adding colorful lines to their maps. Yet now, even Shanghai's subway system is faltering. Yes, you heard correctly. Shanghai Metro, the nation's busiest system, bolstered by substantial government subsidies and with losses often obscured, has begun cutting jobs and slashing wages. The initial wave affects 2,000 workers, nearly all in their 40s and 50s. This situation reflects not just the struggles of one industry, but the broader decline of China's economy. Shanghai Shentong Metro is quietly initiating a large-scale layoff program. Many long-serving employees who have dedicated their careers to the subway system are suddenly receiving notices to leave or retire. The company offers compensation based on years of service. A station chief with 30 years receives 430,000 yuan. A train driver with 25 years gets 310,000 yuan. A maintenance technician with 20 years is offered 235,000 yuan. At first glance, these sums may seem reasonable. Over 400,000 yuan exceeds the annual salary of many white-collar workers. But for those who have spent decades in these roles, the reality is sobering. In Shanghai, this money might sustain them for 3 years at best. Consider this. Shanghai's average housing price remains at 65,000 yuan per square meter. A 90 square meter apartment costs nearly 6 million yuan. Middle-aged workers are burdened with mortgage payments, car loans, children's education costs, and care for aging parents. Now, unemployed, they must also cover their own social security contributions. That 430,000 yuan may appear substantial, but in truth, it's a precarious lifeline. More daunting still, individuals in this age group face slim prospects for re-employment. The tech sector often dismisses middle-aged workers as outdated. Foreign companies are exiting China, leaving few new job opportunities. Manufacturing is plagued by overcapacity, with firms focused on downsizing rather than hiring. The only options left are often ride-hailing, food delivery, or courier work. But the reality is harsh. Even working tirelessly, one might earn around 5,000 yuan a month. In a city like Shanghai, mortgage interest alone can easily consume that amount. The compensation becomes a fleeting reprieve. Initially, it may bring relief, but once half is spent, anxiety looms like a shadow, engulfing entire families. This is not an isolated issue, it's a widespread reality. According to the latest figures from China's Ministry of Human Resources and Social Security, the official urban unemployment rate in 2024 was 5.1%. However, youth unemployment data was temporarily withheld from public release. Private estimates suggest that in 2025, China's true unemployment rate may approach 15%, with fewer than 20% of those over 40 securing new employment. Compared to the layoffs of 1998, this crisis is more severe. Back then, China's economy was growing, and laid-off workers could find opportunities in coastal factories or ride the wave of real estate and manufacturing expansion. Today, with a contracting economy, industries relocating overseas, and a collapsed real estate market, where can these workers turn? These layoffs stem from a tangible decline in passenger numbers. Since the lifting of pandemic restrictions in 2023, Shanghai's economy has remained weak. Morning rush hour traffic is down by a third compared to pre-pandemic levels, and from 2024 to 2025, this decline has persisted. Recently, I visited a large shopping mall near a subway station. At lunchtime, the food court was nearly deserted. Only milk tea shops and fried skewer stands had lines. Japanese restaurants, steakhouses, Western cafes, and even Pizza Hut stood empty. This is Shanghai's consumption landscape in 2025. A stark downgrade. National Bureau of Statistics data reveals that in 2024, China's total retail sales of consumer goods grew by only 2.1%, among the lowest rates since the reform era began. Shanghai's retail sales have declined, with catering industry revenue down nearly 20% from 2019. Disposable income growth has stagnated, while prices face structural deflation. High-end consumption has vanished, with only affordable snacks and milk tea retaining popularity. The drop in subway ridership is not merely a transportation issue, it's a lens magnifying economic decline. Some may wonder, isn't Shanghai Metro the most profitable in China? How can it be struggling? The truth is, subways have never been profitable enterprises. Public data shows that in 2024, at least 26 Chinese cities' subway systems incurred losses, even after government subsidies. Beijing Metro, with the highest passenger volume, lost 21.6 billion yuan. Shenzhen Metro, often touted as highly profitable, reported a net loss of 33.4 billion yuan in 2024, equivalent to a billion yuan lost every 3 days. Qingdao lost 8.8 billion, Chengdu nearly 7 billion, and Ningbo 7.5 billion. The combined debt of China's 28 subway companies exceeds 4.7 trillion yuan. Construction costs are staggering. Shanghai's Metro Line 19 costs 2 billion yuan per kilometer to build, with the national average exceeding 1 billion yuan per kilometer. Compounding the issue, local governments once relied on a subway plus real estate model to recover costs, expecting land values to rise near new lines. But with the real estate market in collapse, land transfer revenue fell from 8.7 trillion yuan in 2021 to 4.3 trillion in 2024, nearly halved. Cash-strapped local governments can no longer afford to subsidize subways, turning them into financial burdens and catalysts for the debt crisis. Layoffs are only the beginning. The future holds even greater challenges. Subway company leaders have indicated that by 2028, with autonomous driving technology advancing, multiple Shanghai subway lines will be fully automated. Drivers, conductors, and even maintenance workers face significant job cuts. Today it's 2,000 workers. Tomorrow, it could be 20,000. This issue extends beyond Shanghai. Cities like Guangzhou, Shenzhen, Beijing, and Chengdu are testing driverless subways. If implemented nationwide, nearly all subway drivers and conductors could face unemployment. In contrast, countries like Japan and those in the West have lower subway automation rates, prioritizing job preservation. In China, fiscal pressures are compelling subway companies to cut labor costs. Once considered secure, these jobs are now being cast aside, much like the laid-off workers of decades past. Many view Shanghai Metro's layoffs as an industry-specific problem, but the reality is far more serious. This is not the struggle of a single company or city. It's a reflection of China's broader economic challenges. In 1998, the layoff wave affected 30 million state-owned enterprise workers, reshaping generations. Back then, laid-off women sold breakfast, and men drove taxis. But China was joining the WTO, foreign trade was surging, and real estate was booming, offering displaced workers a chance to reintegrate. In 2025, this unemployment wave coincides with economic contraction, a collapsed real estate sector, declining trade, and mounting debt. No new industries are emerging to absorb workers, and rapid growth is absent. In essence, this crisis surpasses 1998 in severity. National Bureau of Statistics data indicates that China's GDP growth in 2024 was only 3.2%, among the lowest since the reform era. Exports declined by 5.6% year-on-year, marking 2 consecutive years of decline. Real estate sales have plummeted over 50% since 2019. These figures represent countless livelihoods upended. Another factor driving Shanghai Metro's layoffs is the burden of Social Security contributions. Current policies require companies to pay approximately 30% of wages for social insurance and housing funds. Previously, subway companies could manage this cost, but with dwindling government support and falling ridership, they are now focused on cost-cutting. The simplest solution is layoffs, shifting the Social Security burden to individuals. For workers in their 40s and 50s, unemployment means paying for Social Security themselves. In Shanghai, self-employed individuals pay nearly 30,000 yuan annually for medical and social insurance, a crushing expense for unemployed families. Calculations show that a middle-aged worker paying their own Social Security for 5 years would spend at least 150,000 yuan. about a third of their severance pay. The compensation, already insufficient for living expenses, is further eroded by these costs, creating a slow financial stranglehold. In the past, subway company losses were overlooked, as governments were expected to cover them. But in 2025, local governments are themselves on the brink. Ministry of Finance data reveals that local government debt exceeded 40 trillion yuan in 2024, with hidden debt pushing the total beyond 90 trillion. Land transfer revenue dropped from 8.7 trillion yuan in 2021 to 4.3 trillion in 2024, halved. Fiscal revenues are shrinking, while expenditures on infrastructure, pensions, healthcare, and education remain immense. Consequently, governments are compelled to reduce subsidies, passing losses to subway companies, which in turn pass them to workers, resulting in today's layoffs and pay cuts. This is a fiscal chain reaction: strained central finances, overstretched local budgets, self-preserving companies, and suffering workers. More troubling still, this is not merely a fiscal or corporate issue, but a vicious societal cycle. Downgraded consumption means people are reluctant to spend, leaving shopping malls deserted and subway ridership declining. Lower ridership reduces revenue, increasing losses, which prompts layoffs and pay cuts to cut costs. These measures lead to unemployed middle-class families with reduced incomes, further shrinking consumption. This is the downward spiral ensnaring China's economy. Some might ask if technological innovation could help. Regrettably, the outlook is bleak. High-end chip production is hindered by sanctions. Electric vehicle overcapacity has led to portside inventory pileups, and AI applications remain limited, unable to generate large-scale employment. In the coming years, industries capable of creating significant jobs are scarce. Once, civil service, public institutions, and state-owned enterprises were seen as unshakable. After 2025, these so-called iron rice bowls are beginning to fracture. Shanghai Metro, Shenzhen Metro, Beijing buses, and more may follow. China's high-speed rail reported losses exceeding 110 billion yuan in 2024. Many second- and third-tier cities' bus companies have already reduced routes, laid off drivers, and even utilities like power and water are quietly downsizing. For the middle class, unemployment can collapse entire families. Those with mortgages, car loans, and education expenses are especially vulnerable. When unemployment and reduced consumption converge, it echoes the 1997 Asian financial crisis in Thailand and Indonesia, where millions of middle-class families plummeted overnight. China is now reliving a similar story. Shanghai Metro's layoffs and salary cuts are not the end but the beginning. Soon, more state-owned enterprises may initiate layoffs. Civil servant pay reductions could become routine, college graduates may struggle to find work, and stories of PhDs delivering food could make headlines. Middle-aged workers, with nowhere to turn, may resort to credit cards or housing fund withdrawals to survive. Consumption will continue to contract, and the social atmosphere will grow increasingly oppressive. These signs indicate that China's economic fractures have reached every ordinary person's home, mortgage, and future. When a powerhouse like Shanghai Metro can no longer endure, we must acknowledge that China is entering an unemployment crisis deeper than that of 1998, and this is only the beginning. Thanks for watching and joining us on this journey to unveil China's many layers. If you found this video insightful, please give it a thumbs up, share it with others, and hit that subscribe button to stay updated. See you in the next video.